Hello everyone, welcome to the jungle. It's time for our first cat episode of Road to Super Bowl. Today we will look at Jacksonville Jaguars. We will see if our cat or my cat will show up for this episode or if they are afraid of Jaguars because, let's be fair, none of teams in the NFL at this point are. So episode 5 is here. Let's start with the draft rundown from Jaguars last year. And we'll start with what was kind of like their best moment of last year, and also drafting Brian Thomas. I have to take a big L on this one because I did not necessarily thought that was an excellent pick, unlike public. And I will defend myself on this one because it wasn't about Brian Thomas Jr. as a player. As you can see, I had him as a decent starter, which for a rookie is really high grade. I very rarely have anything above that. So it was not about Brian Thomas. So I felt like, yeah, this was the range for him. It was about like the whole procession about the wide receiver room, to which they've signed Gabe Davis for 3 years, 39 million. And I felt like if you are doing that, you should not be drafting Brian Thomas. First of all, you should not be signing Gabe Davis for that contract. That was my huge criticism that kind of translated to this pick because it felt like you are kind of drafting a guy that you expect to have like a similar position in terms of team, being like a really great deep threat, but you just paid a guy to do that quite enough money. So this was not about Brian Thomas Jr. So yeah, I will still defend my grade a bit because my grades are not only about players but about the process in which this draft pick was made, about the needs of this team, etc. But I did not see this early like revelation of Brian Thomas as, well, let's be fair, number one wide receiver for this team, for the future, and definitely for now. He was excellent, man. Like having the stats that he had with, almost half of the season, he was not receiving even a ball from Trevor Lawrence. That's excellent. So Brian Thomas absolutely arrived. He deserved his Pro Bowl, and Jaguars are like kind of saved this room from being overpaid disaster with this excellent selection. So Jen Volke, despite fucking up on Gabe Davis, you did something right and well done too. But as we kind of get to know with Jen Volke and his draft, every time something goes really well, he has to fuck up. And one of the fuck ups of this draft was Mason Smith. I was on board that this is a reach. I even thought there was a bigger reach that, like, I would say people expected. And also I was not like a huge fan of Mason Smith in terms of fit for this team because of his age. When you look at what Jacksonville is kind of trying to do, they pushed a lot of money in terms of Josh-HinesAllen contract, in terms of Trevor Lawrence contract to like 2026, 2027. So it was like, yeah, we feel like our window is now. And I don't blame them for that thinking. I actually feel like that's what you can do and presumably should do. But in that case, you should not be drafting, at least in my opinion, a guy that's always going to be a developmental prospect. Like his floor, I wasn't even sure about the good backup for his grade. And unfortunately, every time he stepped on the field, he showed that. I didn't lower him, but Mason Smith, for the window that they are in, not necessarily what you wanted. Why do I have Brian Thomas Jr. as a picture? Yeah, I'm sorry guys, obviously the picture on the left is not Mason Smith. Sorry for that, my mistake. Let's follow up with another selection. And, this draft was really up and down and up. Fortunately for them, Jarran Jones, like when this pick was made, a lot of guys were like, what? We didn't thought this guy was almost like draftable. 6th, 7th round was like as high as I've seen him being mocked. And some of the analysts I've looked at didn't even had him as like a draftable prospect. So imagine surprise that he went in top 100 in this really excellent draft. But for them and for me too, because I was pretty much on the same boat, Jaron Jones stepped in and showed us like that, I'm just a good player, man. I play absolutely freaking hard. He stepped in as a slot, kind of similar to Andrew Phillips, and absolutely played tooth and nails. He might deserve even a better grade than he has right now, though I would need slightly bigger sample size for that, because still there were some showings of him not being amazing prospect. But to be fair, this was a slam dunk pick that absolutely did not deserve a D, and as of right now it would be kind of an A to an A minus, probably an A, because Jaron Jones absolutely showed that he can play and is, I think, their starting slot cornerback for at least 3 years to come. But as we learned to expect, with Trent Baalke, you don't really get the good without getting the bad, because Javon Foster, Jordan Jefferson, DeAndre Prince, neither of them got pretty much anything done. Jordan Jefferson, something on 150 snaps, but it wasn't anything good. And the other two guys didn't play almost at all. And it doesn't end there, because Keelan Robinson, he is 24-year-old prospect to be taken as a running back year before there is going to be an excellent running back class, and you take 24-year-old prospect and you play him in 5 snaps. I think this is one of the picks that just sums up Trent Baalke, because there was no need to do this. They did not necessarily had a huge problem with running backs. 5 snaps, man. 5 snaps for an older prospect. What are we doing here? The back end of this draft is saved by Cam Little. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not going to get too much into kickers or punters. I'm not really praising myself or understanding this position that much, but from what I've seen from him, he was damn solid. His PFF grades are among one of the best kickers even for this year, so definitely one of the savings of the draft. And when you draft a kicker, he better hit, and Cam Little definitely did. Nothing got from Miles Kohler. So really up and down draft for Trent Baalke, as there was even more ups than you would expect from him, because let's be frank, his draft history is really questionable, and let's leave it with that for now. Now let's go and check the whole roster, how they perform in 2024. We start with quarterbacks. So Trevor Lawrence, this conversation needs to be on one point. I don't think he's what you are paying him to be. I don't think he's far from the generational prospect that he was praised to be when he entered the draft, and when they I wouldn't say they thanked for him, but they were definitely happy to take him number 1. At the same time, the debate or the opinions that he's cooked, he's washed, he cannot play football is just so damn stupid, man. He is around 14, 15 best QB in the league, and that's nothing you just spit on. But it's not like he's fulfilling what this franchise hoped that he would. Also, he was injured for almost half of the season, so kind of you paid him huge money. I was on the edge with this decision, kind of my saving grace for I would have done the same as his age, because he's only 26, which is crazy because he's already on his second contract. So he really entered the pros as very, very young. He's only 2 years older than some of the best prospects in this year's draft. So, just to put it into perspective, but is he a guy that you kind of trust to put this franchise on his shoulder and deliver some exceptional performance? As of right now, I think you have to doubt it. So this is going to be, I think, big year for Trevor Lawrence under new head coach Liam Cohen, who is kind of this QB savior type of coach. We've seen it with Geno Smith, we've seen it with Baker Mayfield. So if he can do and work his magic on Trevor Lawrence with all the tools that Trevor Lawrence still has in his bag, I'm looking forward to that. But this is kind of it for Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion. Like, if we are about to see him really rise to the level that was expected when he was drafted, so that he could be close to top 5 quarterback in the league, I feel like this is the year that he needs to show that he can be that, at least for some stretches of the games. Behind him, we got to see Mac Jones play again almost half of the season. Unfortunately, first year Mac Jones is just not there anymore. I'm not saying he's bad, but as of right now, you just don't have any resemblance of a starter in him. Still think he is a good backup for this league, one guy that can put out there, and he is not going to be absolute turnstile. So definitely one of the best 62 quarterbacks in the league. So he deserves his money for being a backup. So around 5 to 6 millions a year is something in the area that I would be willing to pay Mac Jones. I think for him, it might not be a bad opportunity to really come back here and work with Liam Cohen for 1 year at least. Despite not really having a chance for a starting job. I mean, it wasn't ugly, but it was not good either. Now let's move to wide receivers. No, we start with running backs, of course. Travis Etienne, this is a weird one because, they kind of stopped using him around the midway of the season. Obviously, he did not fulfill his first round pedigree, but I wouldn't still call him a bad running back. So it's I wonder what's going to happen because this is his final year of his rookie deal, and I really wonder what new regime is going to do with him, and whether or not we will see him thrive. Because one, he didn't look as good as he probably should have. Two, I would say that previous management didn't necessarily do a good enough job scheming running game for this team. They gave a chance to Tank Bigsby, who, to be fair, was probably playing slightly better than Travis, but not really that much. And they had invested in him late for a round pick 2 years ago, so it was nice to see him being able to really hold his own and play well enough for this franchise. I really am on the edge, who is going to be their number one guy, whether we may just see Travis Etienne traded, though his trade value as of right now is probably going to be abysmal because, we've said it a million times, this is an excellent draft for running backs, and he's coming off one of his worst seasons. So we will see about the future of this room. With wide receivers, we have to start with Brian Thomas, and it's definitely a fun conversation if you are a Jaguars fan because, just like with the Giants, you have found your guy. There is a lot of the things were said in his draft review, so I won't spend too much time on him. Trevor Lawrence full year, Brian Thomas full year, and Liam Cohen, I would not put it past him that he could have a 1,500 yard, perhaps even 15 touchdown season. We will see about that. But that's definitely as high as some of the predictions could go for Brian Thomas, and it would not be unjustified. Christian Kirk, he is still a very good player, very nice number 2 guy. The problem is you are not paying him as a number 2 guy. 18 millions, I think is a little bit too much. He's 28, 29 when the season is going to start, and he's dealt with some injuries and did not necessarily deliver even when he was on the pitch. So he has 1 year left on his current deal. There is not necessarily like a huge savings if you are going to cut him. So I do believe that they will continue on using him for the season. But do I expect him to like show what he showed like 2 years ago? I don't think that's necessarily in him to like elevate his status. So if he can hold on to what he is as of right now, which is an important starter, I think he's going to get another deserved paycheck in an area of like 14 millions in a year, and would be probably a nice option for the Jaguars. The question is, will he view himself as just that, as just important starter? Because when you got a taste of being a number one wide receiver, which Christian was for a couple of years here, and you kind of believe that you are that, just settling for that position and really keep grinding, because you can have a pretty big follow unless you do that, because this is one hell of a league. I'm really not sure that's going to be in Christian Kirk, but we'll see. And then we go to Gabe Davis. I mean, guys, I hated this signing when it happened, and like after year one, I can absolutely take a victory lap. First of all, if the plan was drafting Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis is absolutely useless here. Second of all, like he is, let's say, big game Gabe. Big game Gabe. That was his nickname. Because, once every blue moon, he could go out there and catch like everything, going for 150 yards. But you should not be paying that much money for this to happen when in other 3 games he's just an active liability, because he doesn't give you pretty much anything. And you are kind of forced to play him because you're paying him a lot of money. And, you are hoping that this is the one game that he is going to get off. I'm not saying he is like absolute shit of a player, like that would be far from that. He's still quite young, because this is only his like first contract post rookie season, so he's only 26 years old. But the chances of him for him to really like everything is going to click, and he is really going to be that prime big play weapon that you can use pretty much every game. I just don't think that's necessarily in him. I don't see that. Maybe he will persuade me otherwise. He will make me look like a fool. But so far, this was a bad spending of money, and nothing after first year suggests otherwise. Behind him, there is a young player in Parker Washington, who, as of right now, like I would kind of hope that with Gabe Davis' role being overshadowed by Brian Thomas, he can get more of an opportunity, and just the amount of trust that this guy get, even over Gabe Davis, is quite telling, because on one side you have sorry, I will just Google something up. What is going on? For some reason my internet kind of broke. We will see. Okay, nothing to be done by now. I just hope that he will get his opportunities, because sometimes people do tend to make like a bad decision because, well, we've invested so much money in Gabe Davis, let's play him more. And I would say that that would be like a huge mistake for this team. I think Parker Washington has a brighter future ahead of him. I'm not saying he is anything special, but for a 6th round pick just 2 years ago, he was quite a nice find that this team has. Okay, I'm back. Give me, guys, a couple of seconds. Come on, start work. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, like when Gabe Davis was healthy, he was definitely being out there. I feel like you should really just take a look at this situation and understand that, 1 year, his second year, he was a star. He looked very well, but it was on limited sample size, only half of the season, and pretty much the rest of his career was what he is right now. Yeah, you can see it's true because of that. Do you guys have that saying? And if someone sneezes, it means it's true. Let me know down in the comments. Okay, enough of me kind of shitting on Gabe Davis. Now let's take a look at this tight end room, which is again quite an interesting to talk about because there has been a lot of rumors about Evan Ingram trade. And it kind of makes sense with Brenton Strange really having very nice season out there. And you kind of want to give him more opportunities. But there is one thing that I will be talking about a lot in terms of this video, but specifically with Evan Ingram trade talks needs to be mentioned in my opinion. And that's the fact that this team is really the way they structure their contracts, and when the big cap hits are going to strike, this is going to be the season that they should be aiming to go top, because you have Trevor Lawrence with cap hit of 17 millions. Just in 2029, his cap hit is going to be 79 millions. Okay. You have Eric Armstead, this year cap hit 7.4 million. The next year it's 19 million, and then it's 12 million in that cap hit. So he's not going to be on the roster. Still, his cap hit is going to be 12 million. Josh-HinesAllen, 15 million this year, 40 million in 2027. So they really structured a lot of their contracts into a way that 2025 and potential 2026 are years that they want to strike, want to be dangerous, and kind of want to have about like 60 to 80 million chance to spend over the normal cap hit, because if the average value of the deal is 50 million for Trevor Lawrence, they are only paying towards the cap hit third of that in 17 million. So this was supposed to be and if that's the case, getting rid of a player like Ingram, who is still really, really good tight end, is kind of questionable, because you are kind of denying or like crippling yourself or handicapping yourself for this year. And it would be if their contracts were structured not in this direction, I would be like, yeah, give me more Brandon Strange and trade Evan Ingram. He could fetch like third or fourth round pick, and I would be absolutely fine with that. But with this situation being as it is financially, I'm really having troubles with this, because maybe we are not in the situation that we wanted to be in, going into our top priority season being 4-13 the year before. But still, there are some players that are good, and I wouldn't want to but handicapping it for a fourth round pick, if that makes sense, So I'm really wondering how new management around Liam Cohen as head coach will figure the situation out, whether they will kind of understand that maybe they really need to go kind of all in a way, because that's how the contracts work with this team, or if they're going to be okay, we want to have a chance even in 2026, where we already have around 200 millions committed to that year, or 2027 around 150 millions committed. So if we are able to, for us to be able to be competitive in those years too, we should probably get some younger guys on the roster that will develop for those type of years. And also, it's kind of the thinking with Mason Smith I've criticized. I do not have that much of a problem with that pick if that's our thinking. We are trying to be competitive even in the years 2026 and above. But with that being said, that just doesn't align with what they're what they've made with their contract. So it's kind of back and forth, trying to kind of eat your cake and be healthy too, and it's very tough to do that. Overall, this tight end room, if Evan Ingram stays, it's one of the, I wouldn't say premium ones, but kind of like slightly above average with Ingram and Strange. If they let go Ingram, Strange will get his opportunity to be a full-time starter. I think it's in him to be as good as Evan Ingram. I don't necessarily see him getting better than him, not even in the future, but obviously his cap hit is on a rookie deal, so 1.6 million rather than 19 million that you are paying Ingram for a year. So that's the tight end room here. For how they performed, they were steady, they were good, kind of what you expected from them. You've seen very nice stride towards upper echelon with Strange. Ingram, unfortunately, due to injuries, weren't able to play that much, but when he played, he was really good. Now, let's take a look at this offensive line. They let Cam Robinson go like halfway through the season. They let him go to the Vikings, so this position of left tackle is like fully committed to Walker Little, whom they paid quite a nice chunk of change, 3 years, 40 million. And as of right now, this might seem like a bargain because he looked very well out there. He will still be like bottom half in terms of left tackles in the league because we have so many incredible ones. Like it's crazy, but he's good player, and being just 26, 25, there is still a room for him to grow. Not necessarily in size, but even that could be the case. But he could be like important starter in years to come, and someone you are happy that protects your blind side, especially for the price that you are paying him. On the other side, you've made a huge investment into Anton Harrison with the draft, and after the first year was kind of did we make the right decision? In second year, I feel like he definitely improved as much as you would hope. He's still not someone that you are just absolutely stoked about, but he is a solid player that is kind of on track with where you expect young tackles to develop. He's only 20, just celebrated his 23rd birthday, start of the February. In the center, they went for experience in Mitch Morse that they have signed from the Bills. What is there to say? Like, you take an experienced center that plays good enough. He's not a liability, but he's definitely not a strength. That's Mitch Morse by definition, and he delivered absolutely that. So I do understand why you make such a signing, and I think it's one of the underestimated part of the business, making these smart signings that are relatively cheap, and you are not getting someone that will write the headlines, but you will get a solid play and not a problem. And it's not flashy, it's not twitchy, it's not investing huge in this position, but it's smart, and that's a definition of the signing. He's putting up performance kind of worth his contract. In terms of interior, good strides from Ezra Cleveland in his, I think it was his second year with Jacksonville. He was traded here midway through last year. Yep. And they paid him quite a small contract for what he actually delivered. 3 years, 24 million, again, seems like a bargain. So despite me being a huge critic of Trent Baalke, some things he got right, but this was kind of high risk, potentially quite a nice reward type of decision, because when he arrived last season towards the Jaguars, he looked pretty shit. It was not a nice look at him, but he definitely, with an off-season in his backpack, understanding what they want from him, he looked absolutely solid. Again, not a guy that you will see writing many headlines, but kind of younger, similar type of contract, but even better type of player than Mitch Morse. So that's where you get your value. On the other side of the line, it was Brandon Sheriff, experienced veteran. That was not a problem. Unfortunately, his run blocking leaves something to be desired. So when we talk about this team not necessarily setting up their running backs for success is partially about the schemes, not necessarily suiting their offensive linemen, and not like overall I was not a huge fan of what they were running in terms of run offense, because it just lacked pretty much any creativity. It's like who remembers Mr. Canada with Pittsburgh Steelers? It's like you kind of know what they are going to do, and they do expect, well, we are better than you, so we will make it happen. And I mean, that O-line is good, but it's not that good, right? So if everybody knows what you are going to do and you are not Philadelphia, with tush-push, they will stop you. And that's what kind of happened for this offense, especially in terms of running game. Luke Fortner, fortunately for any QB that's been here, didn't get much of a playtime. He just has been a third round draft bust so far. And we will see where the future will go with him, because this is going to be last year of his contract as a rookie. And in 3 years, he's been bad. So, and Mitch Morse is here. Unless he goes down with an injury, I don't see him getting any significant playing time. Yeah, tough situation for Luke, who has been one of the highest third round picks just 3 years ago. Now let's switch to the defensive side of the ball, where you expect to have your best players. And you have one in Josh-Allen. He is an elite edge player. I would not put him into like the same group as Myles Garrett, but I would still think like not calling him an elite is a crime. Like, he is a special player. It's just he's at Jacksonville. Nobody pays too much attention to that. Also, when you say Josh Allen, everybody thinks about Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen. That might be why he just like his name as of right now is always everywhere Josh-HinesAllen. So there is so he is like distinguishable. I just to me he's Josh Allen, but I will call him Josh-HinesAllen. If he prefers that, no problem with that. But I felt actually it was just fun to have two exceptional Josh Allens in the league, and kind of having fun with that. He's really special, and like nothing more to say. Next to him, Trevor Walker kind of finally arrived. This was definitely a year that he needed to have, because he didn't look like a guy you necessarily draft first overall, but he looked like a very good pass rusher and even run defender, which was supposed to be like his strength even from the beginning, that with his size he's going to be an exceptional run defender, and hopefully the pass rush will come. This year he was kind of balanced with both of these situations. Numbers were good. Luke finally arrived, because like numbers were not necessarily problems for him, but it didn't feel like he was the one making this stuff happen. This year it finally did come with that. Eric Armstead, their huge acquisition before the start of last year. This was not Eric Armstead that they were hoping to get, but it's also like they didn't outpay him too much. Like 3 years, 43 million for a player that he was supposed to be. Like, I had him as an amazing starter beginning last year. That seems like quite a bargain, but he is quite an older guy. As of right now, he is 32, so there was something baked in about his health and his age being there. And unfortunately, both of those turn and show up their uglier heads for this year. I'm not saying he was by any stretch of imagination bad, but he was not necessarily a player that makes difference every single game. But obviously, these three guys are very, very good, and almost every team would be lucky to have them. Unfortunately, that's pretty much it for this D-line, because interior is just not very exciting. Mason Smith, we already talked about him being kind of a bust so far. again, like he's very young prospect, so there is no way me saying that he cannot turn it around, but so far he looked really bad. And with Jeremiah Ledbetter, Devon Hamilton, they are your rotational players. Like, if these guys are rotating in, playing 300 snaps a year, you are absolutely okay with that. But they kind of were the starters, especially in case of Hamilton. And also, like, midway through the season, they traded Troy Robertson-Harris to give more opportunities to the Ledbetter and Mason Smith, and it just didn't look good, man. Like, none of these guys necessarily took their chance and ran away with it. So there is really good edges, but in the middle you kind of have a big hole that I think is actually probably the biggest priority that they need to fix this offseason, at least in my opinion. With Jeremiah, he's obviously kind of this older player. He's already 30, so if you resign him, I'm not against that. And like Devon Hamilton, Ledbetter, and Mason Smith, okay, but you need to have a top player next to them, and that's where, like, in a lot of my mock drafts, I do have Mason Graham going towards the Jaguars. Now let's switch up towards linebackers, and you can definitely see that this is one of the strengths of this team. Foyesade Olaikun, I hope I'm saying this right, which I'm probably not. I mean, he's a bit overpaid for my liking, and they have him under contract for next 3 years, which is a little bit insane given that he is 30 or will be 30 this year. But like, he is definitely great starter, and if he's your second best linebacker, I don't think there is many teams that have better than that, like maybe 3 or 4, but that's about it. So for a number 2 linebacker, he's excellent, though you are paying him number 1 linebacker money. And you are lucky and definitely happy that you actually have a number 1 linebacker in Devin Lloyd, who is still on his rookie deal despite being 27. And it was a risky pick because drafting a linebacker in first round, 27 overall, and at this point of the time he was already 24. That was really one of the questionable picks, but Devin Lloyd absolutely shows that he was deserving of that spot. He developed into a top 10 linebacker even on his rookie contract, and it's going to be very interesting what they do with him, because like I said, they should be, I think, trying to actually go for it this season, which would mean you probably need to pay Devin Lloyd a quite nice chunk of money. But if you are not going for it, and if, for example, you are training Evan Ingram and you are going for more this, our ship needs to be more balanced, let's fix some of the messes previous regime has done, then Devin Lloyd could be quite an interesting pick to trade or player to trade, because his value should be very, very high. I'm not saying like Roquan Smith type of deal, but he could definitely fetch at least a second rounder. I think he's one of the premier linebackers, and given the fact that you actually have guys beside Olaikun and Lloyd in Chad Muma and Venture Miller who are on their rookie deals, and like, you can see them starting as I would say almost average linebackers too, because this is definitely not a deep position in the league, and you can see them develop. Maybe you just go out and try to shop Devin Lloyd rather than paying him, which would pain me. He's an exceptional player, but it might be actually a smart thing to do for the Jaguars, given that this room is not necessarily a huge problem. And if you want to stack up some of the players for 2026, 2027, when those cap hits really hit hard, this might be one of the smart ways how to do it. So keep up with the conversation, because the fact that Devin Lloyd hasn't already signed an extension could make me think that maybe he could be a one that kind of sneakily ends up on trading block because of the situation that they are financially in for years to come, not necessarily for this year. But if they are going all in, it should be absolutely no-brainer to pay him 15 plus millions a year, because he is that type of difference maker. Now let's take a look at the secondary. We will start with the safeties, and it's not necessarily a nice discussion to have. I think they have a bunch of bodies, whether it's Andrew Wingard, Andrew Cisco. It's a lot of them were like these, let's say, older players. Like the only like really young prospect was Antonio Johnson, but he was actually okay. Like Darnell Savage was even worse than him, but none of these guys were playing necessarily well, and there is just not enough talent. There is not a difference maker in that room, and it showed. Like play of the secondary of the Jaguars was quite poor, and there is not necessarily a huge hope, especially in terms of safeties, that you will figure it out eventually through your own resources as they are right now. You don't have the talent there, in my opinion. Nothing against Antonio Johnson. I think he could be a nice backup in the league, and as of right now, like he is kind of on the verge of being that. But I wouldn't want him as my starter. I don't necessarily see traits or quality for him to develop into starting safety in the league. He tried to move Darnell Savage there, experiment that didn't work, and they actually paid, Trent Baalke, man. 3 years, 22 million for Darnell Savage. Okay. There is not really a cheap way out as of right now. So, I know, like, I'm not blaming you to take a punt on it. There was actually several guys suggesting his possible transition to safety could be an interesting path for his career. But if you are taking a punt, I think you should probably do it for 1 year, or at least, like, if you are going for a long-term deal, at least get yourself the ability to get cheaply out of it after the first season, which they didn't. So has the safety room, and it's not necessarily like that much better with corners, but it's better. It's better because you have Tyson Campbell, who I would say entering the season was expected to make this leap towards being a guy that you can count on in terms of we put him on the best wide receivers of enemy team, of opposition team, and he's going to cover them well, because that's what he looked like in his second season. His third season was shortened due to injuries, and he was not playing poorly, but they definitely hoped that he would be what he was in his second year. They paid him like accordingly to that, 19 million a year. That's quite hefty chunks of money. Also, in this deal doesn't hit properly till 2027, when there is a 24 million cap hit. Unlike this year, it's 8 million. He's still a very young prospect. I should not be calling him a prospect, but his age kind of points out to that direction, because he's going to be 25 this year, or like he will be he is going to be 25 this year. But when he was out there this season, he kind of looked like a guy, like good player, but not necessarily one you trust to cover Nico Collins or even Alec Pierce in this division. So there is hope that he will still get better. There is definitely a chance. He has traits to do that. But as of right now, he might be another potential problem in terms of we are overpaying this guy. So really another player that you should be watching carefully and kind of needs to pull his weight given his contract. Otherwise, he could be a problem for the Jaguars going forward. Not in terms of he's not going to play good, but he's going to be just not worth the contract. Kind of fortunately, as we talked about, Jaren Jones kind of emerged out of nothing, at least for me, to be this team's starting slot corner for years to come. Guy that you are paying absolute peanuts for that, with the draft being later than the first round, where the chunks of money actually get, I would say, semi-interesting towards the later part of the contract. I mean, I would still be happy to get $1 million a year, don't get me wrong, but in terms of cap hits, these are really peanuts. Montaigne Brown, in his third year, showed that there is something in him for 7th rounder. Like sometimes you have to give Chen Bulky some props, and finding Montaigne Brown in 7th round 3 years ago was a good find. You would much more like for him to be like your dime bag option, a guy when you go out there with 4 corners, that he's out there, rather than be a part of a 3-corner set in which he needs to be your second outside option. That's why there's a lot of corners, especially Will Johnson in the first round, being mocked here. But like, is this necessarily the biggest issue they have? I feel like when you compare the hole that you have in the middle of the defensive line, compare that to like not a great amount of quality in the secondary, I would say that the hole is bigger in the defensive line, and I would invest my draft pick to Mason Graham. Obviously, given the fact that they would be both available to me, I would go for Graham as of right now, like when I'm like still quite early in terms of draft process. With that being said, we make it to rundown of players' performance for last year. Now let's take a look at this franchise overall before we hand out some rewards and show you guys how this roster could shape up in 2025. So, Liam Cohen, their new head coach. This was an interesting saga. Everybody who followed it can have definitely mixed feelings about Liam Cohen, because first he entered, like, yeah, I want to be Jacksonville head coach, and we're like, we would like to have you, but Trent Baalke is staying. And he was like, no, I don't want to work with Trent Baalke as a GM. I don't blame him. Like, I don't think Trent Baalke is a guy that, given his pedigree, should be a GM in the league as of right now. So, okay, up to this part, everything is good, right? But then it was, he comes back to Tampa and saying, yeah, I'm staying, give me more money, I will be offensive coordinator for years to come. And they were like, okay, great, we love you to have you back. And then he travels back to Jacksonville because they were like, okay, we actually want you, so we could fire Trent Baalke if you want. I was like, yeah, I want that. So we kind of negotiate with Jacksonville while not picking up the phone from Tampa and kind of screwing them over and actually taking this job while Trent Baalke was fired. So while I do understand it in terms of he got what he wanted and he probably used Tampa as leverage and he used Jacksonville as leverage towards Tampa, it's hard business. But in terms of like human side of thing, I do understand that a lot of Tampa Bay fans will have really a bitter taste on their mouth after this situation. So with that, Liam Cohen, I rank him as, like, obviously for me he's not going to be an average head coach as of right now, but I do feel like from the coaches that got their first job, he is one of the best to do, and I really believe that he will succeed, though I need to see some of the things first. And also the process kind of left me how much of a trust he will actually be able to create after this process. Like, I'm not sure if Mike Gray would not be B, because I really feel like he is going to be a successful head coach and he has everything in terms of what do you need for offensive-minded head coach. But being a head coach is not only about understanding exceptionally the ball, but it's also understanding the relationships, how to run the whole organization pretty much. And for that, the way he started his job doesn't look that good. But let's move from that. Let's take a look at what 2024 season was for the Jaguars, and I cannot do anything but an E+. And what saves it is Brian Thomas, Cam Little, Jaren Jones. So draft was, I cannot say good because there were some absolute flops in there, but you found some of the pieces that you needed, and you were able to get rid of Trent Baalke and hire Liam Cohen. So I would say, I didn't count it that much towards this grade because it's somehow part of the 2025 season, but it's like a little bit in there. But other than that, it was a really bad season for the Jaguars, obviously. In terms of quarterback, I will go with minus. As I said, for this, I'm not saying that Trevor Lawrence is under average as a QB. We already talked about it, but it's how good of a QB you are getting per the money you are paying him. So for a guy that's already on one of the highest paid deals in the league, I don't think he's necessarily worth that when I compare it to other guys in the league. In terms of hot seat, usually you would probably start with head coaches that you like and are getting their dream job. Here I was almost thinking about 3, and the reason for that is with the way the things are structured financially, they might actually really try to do something this year and go kind of all in and really be like, we want to go for it. And if it fails miserably, I'm not putting it behind them to just be one and done with Liam Cohen, but it's a really small chance. That's why I couldn't even go to 3. So it's still 2, but with the situation not being necessarily like hyper normal in terms of expectations, because when you see Trevor Lawrence and Hines-Allen having combined cap hit of like 30 million for the season, you need to have some expectations for that season. It's not like, well, this is my first year. No, there are expectations for the Jaguars based on that. In terms of financials, you don't necessarily have too many players on good contracts, not a lot of young guys on rookie deals beside pretty much Brian Thomas that you can build upon when the cap situation hits. And also, like I said, you've already wasted some of the lower cap hits that guys like Trevor Lawrence do have. You already have some dead cap hits for guys like Armstead and so on in future years. So the financial situation is not actually very sweet for the Jaguars. And even like for now, you have around 30 million in terms of cap hit. Let me check on that one. Yeah, they have only 32 million. So when you put rookies in there, pretty much 15 million unless you reshuffle some deals and put even more baggage towards the future where you already have a lot of hefty bags committed. Staying with this team, I struggle with it because it's not the whole D-line, but definitely the edge players are really a huge tank, but they are in prime position to draft Mason Graham, in my opinion. I think he should be up there with the 5th overall pick. And with that being said, Allen, Armstead, Walker, and Graham, secretly this could actually be top 3 O-line, top 3 defensive line ending this year, and perhaps even the best one, because there is a huge amount of talent and even experience and quality in there, but you just need to fix the hole that you have in the middle. In terms of division, from the Jaguars perspective, I think it's one of the best situations you can find yourself in. You don't have a juggernaut in your division. You don't have a top 4 QB, though CJ Stroud is obviously an excellent one, still on a rookie deal. But Colts with Anthony Richardson, I'm not sure where they are. They are kind of really, I think they will go for his 3rd season and he needs to show up, or they will kind of start to rebuild in a way and start with a new QB there. And Titans obviously have a number 1 overall pick for a reason. So from the Jacksonville perspective, this division is really good. I think that's one of the sweet situations why Liam Cohen was like eager for this job. Though, truth to be told, there was a lot of saying that this job is like super because you get Trevor Lawrence, you get taxes that are, let's say, more beneficial to your paycheck, and you get the nice weather. While I understand that, I think the overall state of this franchise is actually much worse because of the financials that people do realize or that is like talked about in media. With that being said, let's hand out some rewards, shall we? So for a draft hit, yeah, it cannot be anyone else but Brian Thomas. Absolutely started a receiver. In his first year, he Gabe Davis, who? Christian Kirk, yeah, you can have my back. Oh, who is throwing me the ball? Mac Jones. Okay, let's make it work. And yeah, he just made everything work. And you have one for the future that's going to be absolutely exceptional. In terms of draft blunder, I was there when this pick happened. I wasn't a fan. And still, I'm not saying that he is a bust in terms of like there's no chance for him to become better. I'm rooting for him to get around 300-400 snaps next year too. But the entire process for him being drafted was wrong in my opinion for what you needed right now, and he just didn't necessarily have a great year on the field as well. For a cornerstone of this franchise, I came back to Brian Thomas Jr. because like he was the one that made things electrifying for fans to watch, for even national media. Like imagine a team that's like kind of tanking. Mac Jones is their QB. There's pretty much everybody knows the head coach is going to get fired, and you're still watching those games because what is this young lad going to do? That's what Brian Thomas did for them. He was, I think, the best performer for them last year. And to me, he could be probably the more attractive piece from Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas duo to come and take this job. In terms of unsung hero, again, we talked about him, so it's very rare that actually two guys from the draft are making it into my video. There was definitely a chance to praise guys like Levin Lloyd, but I actually went for Jaron Jones, partially to make another amends for my bad draft take on him, but also because he needed to be good. Like that secondary was abysmal. They did not play well. None of the guys that they expected to get better actually really got better. Perhaps Montaric Brown, you can say that, but other than that, it was kind of a disaster. There was also some injuries that happened, and this guy kind of comes in, plays really tough position to transition in, and like his run defense, man, like getting 88.5 in terms of PFF, like their grades are not like godlike. They do make some mistakes, but this says you are playing with your hair on fire, and just every game with you hurts. Every time you try to put the ball down into his area, especially in terms of running game, he's going to be out there flying missile, trying to tackle you, and that's what he did. So huge kudos to him, and in terms of both making us look like fools and also like giving this team something that they did not expect. And it's not like he didn't have that much of run defense snaps. It was over 200, so it's not like a huge number, but it's not like this was a fluke. Like especially. He even had 2 sacks, which is very interesting. Also towards their divisional opponents in Titans and Colts. And in terms of flop, I guess you could have guessed it, Gabe Davis. Like I said, I'm done bashing him because I've already done that multiple times throughout this video. So one last time, he just got this award. With that being said, 2024 is past. let's take a look at 2025 and how this roster could shape up. So, in terms of offensive line, I definitely do see them trying to bring Brandon Sheriff back to play second offensive guard here. But they might go in another direction where it's someone slightly cheaper or slightly younger, because with Mitch Morse, Brandon Sheriff, that interior was getting slightly on the older side of things. So I'm unsure. So I left this spot to be with a question mark for me. But the rest of this O-line pretty much is set up. I don't really see them going about it in any other way. Walker Little, you paid, he delivered. Anton Harrison is developing and playing well. Ezra Cleveland definitely playing well. And Mitch Morse, smart signing that, pretty much after the year, you are looking to replace him. Because, well, first of all, he's 33 or will be 33. And second of all, he only has 1 year left on his deal, and you want something better eventually. But for now, I think you have much bigger problems to figure out than Mitch Morse being your center. In terms of skill positions, I think you are set. Actually, I don't see them investing in this group way too much because of the financials that are in here. So Brian Thomas, clearly number 1 wide receiver. Christian Kirk as your number 2. You are absolutely happy with that, though you are overpaying him a little bit. And Gabe Davis as your 3. I said I don't want to bash him anymore. So Gabe Davis as your 3. With running backs, like I said, this is going to be an interesting situation. But I think if Liam Cohen sees this, this could be like Bucky Irving, Rashid White. I'm not saying they are as good, but I do see him creating much better opportunities for both Etienne and Bixby to thrive. And I would not be shocked if Etienne has not necessarily a comeback player of the year type of performance, but definitely getting to the heights that was there for him to achieve. I don't think he is washed, at least in my opinion. And like I said, if I am the head coach, if I am GM here, I treat the situation as kind of forced to be not all in that I'm selling the house, but with what's there, I'm not handicapping myself by letting go good players for the season, so I would still go with Evan Ingram. In terms of how the backups are for the offense, I would bring Mac Jones back. I think that it's a good deal for both teams. He is used to the Jacksonville. I don't think the fans necessarily hate him. He didn't look like shit. And Liam Cohen could work for him very well in terms of even his future career. In terms of running backs, I definitely feel like you are drafting one. Keelan Robinson, no. You just forget that this big happened and you take one in this year. You are set up, I think, in terms of tight ends and wide receivers. Brandon Stretch, very good as a tight end too. I do believe he should stay that. And Parker Washington, like I said, I hope he gets more snaps than Gabe Davis, but at least for the start of the season, I do expect Gabe Davis to be over him in terms of depth chart. And they don't necessarily have interesting depth in terms of offensive line. I mean, they do have guys like Foster or Fortner that they invested in with draft, but I don't think that either one of them is my backup that I would be happy to have as a first option if somebody goes down. In terms of defense, we talk about it. Let's just get Mason Graham in, and this defensive line looks exceptional. In terms of linebackers, I don't think they will get rid of Devin Lloyd, though I would say it's 75-25. So with that being said, and with me personally, my choice would be go with him. So the similar thinking like with Evan Ingram. So Devin Lloyd and Foyesade Olaikun are clear-cut players that are going to be there and will be one of the most balanced and quality duo of linebackers in the league. Then the secondary is here, and you need to invest here. There is lack of top players. There's some youth to still count on in Tyson Campbell and in Jarian Jones. I would give Andrew Wingard his starting chance. I think like in limited sample sizes, he looked the best for the Jaguars, not only this season. So, like in a situation where I'm not necessarily being happy with what I have, Andrew Wingard will do. I feel like they need to bring a second corner that you can trust into this room. You can go and try to make it work with Montreal Brown, Ronald Darby, Jarian Jones, and Tyson Campbell, but I think you are asking yourself to be in trouble. So whether it's through free agency or through the draft, I think this group needs to be elevated. There could be an interesting conversation in terms of safety with they have an extra third, extra fourth for this year's draft, and with them having 36th pick of the draft, in case Malachi Stark starts to fall beyond number 15, 16, I would not necessarily hesitate too much and slightly double down on this year, and really when okay, here's my second round pick this year, here's my second next year, and perhaps throw something in and go and get Malachi Starks, because suddenly this room would look definitely much better. And I think he is the type of player that could, despite his immense talent, I think in terms of raw quality, when you put the position out of the question, he's top 5, top 7 player in this year's draft. So, but with safeties not being valued as highly, he could be falling down the line. And with that, if I am Jacksonville, I would be prepared to be on the phone and making this decision. So really expecting to see and be watching the situation, especially if Malachi Starks is still out there, with number 18, 19, I would be making the call and just see at least what the price is, because I don't think it necessarily should be super high that you cannot afford it reasonably well. And in terms of backups, there is actually a lot of guys that I think counts as quite a decent options, or guys that you are kind of stuck with in terms of Darnell Savage. But Mason Smith and Naman Hamilton, if they are my number 3, number 4 guys for my defensive interior defensive line, I'm happy. I don't just want them as starters, though I would not put it past them, especially if they are going for balanced approach, to try and start Mason Smith, just to throw him into the wolves and see what happens. And the same could be said for Montreal Brown, who definitely showed more than Mason Smith as of right now, and the same for Chad Muma. So these 3 guys, kind of an indication for me if they are starting week 1, I know what they've done, right? They've made their bet clear. Okay, the contracts might suggest that we should be going all in this year. We are going for balanced approach. We traded some of our veteran players for future picks, so we have a slightly more balanced approach for the future, and we trust these young guys to actually be players that will suffice right now and develop into the future. With that being said, Jaguars are a very interesting team, in my opinion, but not necessarily easy to navigate as a head coach, as a GM, because of the situation that is there. They are definitely lacking a lot of success in history of this franchise, and they are kind of set to be good right now, but when you went 4-13, going all in next year sounds kind of crazy. So we will see what they make of this situation. I'm very excited about the job Liam Cohen can do, and what can we see from Brian Thomas, what can we see from Trevor Lawrence, what can we see from Travis Etienne, and they could win this division. That team, despite being 4-13, doesn't necessarily talent to win division like this one, and they are obviously not favorites, but you know what I mean. So thank you guys for listening. If you watched it out here, thank you very much. You are true NFL fans that try to go deep and learn about their teams or even teams in general, what their future look like. And for the end, we actually got my cat here. Can you say hello? Hello, can you say, you might see her tail. I don't want to screw up my my camera setting, but I think you guys will get the tail just about now. Hello, yeah, she says hi. Thank you, and see you with the next one. Bye bye.